In the upcoming episode, I'm going to be talking to Audrey, a former commuter Bethelite, and she's going to break it down on how the Watchtower controls its members. Let's get into it. The conversation is already in session. Did you see the control?
Yeah, I'm glad you used that word. So I'm listening to you and I'm nodding my head in agreement, but this whole thing breaks my heart because I know how sincere people are who are in this organization and how they feel they are putting God first. But you use the word that is really the key to how I woke up. It's understanding the mechanisms of control. I got involved in SART. SART stands for Sexual Assault Response Team, and WEAVE. And WEAVE stands for Women Escaping a Violent Environment. These are nonprofit organizations that I was doing volunteer work with that help people who are in domestic violence and sexual assault scenarios. And in that, I took 8 weeks of training from medical personnel, from legal personnel, such as police officers and people in law, who taught us how to recognize the mechanisms of control. So I brought with me today a list of the things that I began to learn in this class. And what's amazing to me is that when I started this class, this was something I was doing on the side. I wanted to do something for my community. No, it's not normal that Jehovah's Witnesses will do this kind of thing, but I've always had an attraction to helping the world in general, right? And as we went through, you'll see on the slide here 17 methods of control. And if you go on the internet, you can search and find all of these yourself. You can even use Chat GPT. We'll talk to you in detail about each one of these. But I want to show you what happened to me in the classroom. I started to recognize a parallel between the control mechanisms being taught to me in relation to rape and domestic violence and what I was experiencing in the organization. And this really hit me hard. So I'm not going to talk about all 17 of these, but I want to share a few which I think are easiest for people to see. And you see I've highlighted these in red here. These are the few that I'm sure anyone watching this video, if you've ever been a part of Jehovah's Witnesses organization, you will have recognized these. So let's start with gaslighting as an example. I just recently found out that gaslighting comes actually from a movie, right? Where the husband was slowly turning up a lamp, a gaslit lamp, turning down a lamp, making it darker and darker, but telling his wife, no, you're imagining that. So go ahead to the gaslighting slide, Lady C, and you'll see on the left side, what I'm sharing with you is typical domestic violence scenarios where they kind of make you crazy. They make you feel like you're crazy. They'll say things like, oh, I was just joking. You took that too seriously. Or you're too sensitive. These are kind of things that come up. These are red flags, by the way, in unhealthy relationships where people start to diminish your critical thinking. So you start to notice something, you're using that critical thinking that we all love, Lady C, and then they kind of diminish it. Let's just push that down. No, 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 you're thinking too much. Stop doing that, right? And then what you'll see, even in the organization, are things like, the society never said that 1975 was the end of the world. There were people just kind of coming to that own personal conclusion. Just recently with the beards, I was quite offended by the laughter from the platform about how could anybody be qualified because they do or do not have a beard. And you start thinking, well, wait a minute. Maybe I am kind of crazy. I thought that was the way it was. But now we're laughing about it like that was not what it was. And so we need to clarify to you what you misunderstood. And this is gaslighting, right? And then most recently, this whole people who were killed in by Jehovah directly, they might be resurrected because actually we just don't know. And they say it and they laugh about it like it's us crazy having thought that thing that was taught for years. This is an example of gaslighting.
That's
Well,
right. And
this,
not only that,
yeah,
we did do a video about that, and we had a guest on our program.
yeah,
But it was about collective narcissism and all that, but it all kind of runs hand in hand. But the
yes,
thing about it is It's the individuals that are speaking on behalf of the society, and they're trying to reinforce the gaslighting that actually started at the top of the heap with them.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Which takes you to the next one. Go to the next one. And this one is in support of gaslighting. What you have is triangulation. Triangulation is where you start involving others to support what you think about this person's critical thinking. So this guy's sitting here at this table and maybe he has a critical thought about something, right? And he's starting to realize this don't sit right. But the people back there start talking about him. I don't like the way he's been thinking. And lately he's been showing himself to be kind of weird in his patterns. And they start, and what they'll do in domestic violence is the actual abuser will actually get advocates from their own family. Like they'll take the mom or the father or the sister or the brother, or even have the nerve to go and talk to the boss and get these people on their side, kind of against you, supporting the gaslighting, right? It's just you. And everybody knows that, but you, right? And what happens in Jehovah's Witnesses organization, right? As soon as you deviate from a common pattern that is understood, there can be marking that occurs, right? Where we start saying, even before it happens from the platform, you start talking amongst yourselves about this person who's not a good association, or you're noticing that she's doing blah, blah, blah. Or, oh my goodness, I think she's dating somebody in the world. Or even she's dating that brother that just got baptized. Oh my goodness. And we start whispering, and we end up with a situation of triangulation where that person is not allowed aligned with our culture. And therefore, we're going to put them on the side. We're going to withhold responsibilities from them because we disagree with their pattern of action. We're going to maybe pass that information around on publisher cards from congregation to congregation. And maybe we're even holding their family, because this is what happens, when you're thinking, I might get disfellowship for disagreeing with this Bible teaching, or even like my friend in Bethel, even for studying the Bible with my friends, you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want that to happen because I'll lose my family and my friends. And you don't know how many people, it's like ransom. It's like you're holding their family at ransom, and they cannot do anything but stay there, because if they go, then their family is lost. And some people cannot handle that. They cannot handle that. And it becomes extremely effective for mechanism for triangulation or control, right? Um, and then they'll start using these little catchphrases like, well, if you left, where would you go? Jesus said, where would you go? Or they would say things like, do you believe that Jehovah is leading this organization? And it's funny because no matter what the question is, they'll throw out these sentences as if they're related, and they're completely unrelated. Like, they're completely unrelated. So if I'm talking to you about my desire to understand the Bible better, and so I have my friends come over, what does that have to do with whether or not Jehovah's leading this organization, right? But that is their catchphrase that is used to keep you under control, to keep you in that situation where you can't really argue, right? But here's the key, Lady C, and I learned this dealing with domestic violence and sexual assault. The best way to identify control is to have support systems, right? But what does the organization do? Separates you from any non-witness support system. So go to the next slide. I'll talk about name calling, right? And so we start naming people that we might have as support systems, like that would catch these control mechanisms. We're rebranding them. They're no longer, your sister, your brother, your loving family. Now they're worldly. They're bad association. They're apostate, you know? And so, just like in domestic violence, where they might label you as stupid, ignorant, unable to do things on your own, dumb, they might also criticize any support systems you have, like your family, so that your family will pull away from you. Because anybody in a controlling situation knows that those support systems are your hope. They are the only way you're going to recognize the control. And so they push them out. And so an abuser in domestic violence will do his or her best to push that support system out. And so if you are a support system for somebody in domestic violence, my biggest advice to you is not to criticize, to just stay present, be available no matter what happens. Because if they have no support system, they are unlikely to be able to recognize an exit if it were to appear. Same thing happens with witnesses. All of these support systems are rebranded. And so, because they all got bad names and they all look like they're working for Satan, now they lose that one opportunity that might wake them up, that might say, yo, I don't think that's actually a good idea what you just said, because blah, blah, blah. They're not there. They're not there because they've been pushed out because of a labeling that they got from the organization, right? Can you go to the next one? I want to be careful with time. The silent treatment. And this comes in handy after you done pushed out their support systems, right? Because they're gone, right? So now don't speak to them, right? And because they have no one else, it's kind of like you've created, the controlling individual has created a dependency on them. And because they've created that dependency, now you have no one to talk to if they stop talking to you. And they have convinced you that you are so ignorant, childish, or incapable that you cannot lead your life without them. So that silent treatment actually becomes a threat to your life because of your dependence. And this happens in domestic violence. You can see the list that I show there. But also, this happens in Jehovah's Witnesses organization, where that negative inner circle of gossip begins to close doors to you from the people that you have left in your network, right? They might even literally mark you. They might label you as crazy, because as they label you as crazy, it prevents others from listening to you, especially if you're bringing up a valid point, for instance, or a point that cannot be easily argued. It's best that they label you as crazy. That way nobody can listen to you, right?
Yeah,
Because you're crazy, right? And then the ultimate is the final shunning that occurs when you're disassociated or you're disfellowship. And
right.
that, for somebody who has no support systems because they've been removed, that is detrimental to their lives, to their psyche, to their ability to recover, right? And if they cannot come back, if they feel like they cannot come back, it will change their lives forever.
Yeah, but not only that, but it's really, really sad. This is an interesting topic here. And the silent treatment is probably done more often to people than you realize it, because like your siblings, I've had siblings that, like, your sister may get upset with you and
Yeah,
now she's not talking. Your mom gets mad and
yeah,
she's not talking. And
yeah,
and it just really does something to you. So when a group of people do that,
yeah.
especially the group of people that you claim is your lifeline. And I found one thing interesting about this
Mm-hmm.
negative talking and gossiping.
Mm-hmm.
If a Jehovah's Witness talks about another witness that's so called a regular witness that's active,
Mm-hmm.
then it's considered gossiping.
Yep.
But if a person gets disfellowshipped or disassociated and you're talking about them,
All
they don't
gossip
consider
allowed.
that as gossip at all.
Yeah, all gossip is allowed at that point because
Exactly.
they're an enemy, right? We
Mhm.
can we can gossip about enemies because we have forgotten the parable of Jesus about the Samaritan. We can
Yeah.
we can treat our enemies any way we want,
Mhm.
right? And I actually have a dear friend right now who is shunning me, who's not talking to me. She knows it's breaking my heart. But I think if you look at the videos that are shown at the conferences, they believe this is the way to get you back. And I just want to say at a certain point, and I'm at that point, you not speaking to me doesn't get me back. It just proves I've made the right decision. Because what I see is conditional love. I don't see discipline. I see, I love you when you do what I do, but I don't love you when you choose to do something different. That's not inclusive. That's not real love. And no, it will not get me back.
That's
Uh,
right.
and if you want to go to I think this is the last one that is, I wanted to know, treating you like a child. Yeah. This one, I tend to forget this, but this is where everything in your life starts getting controlled. This happens in domestic violence really quickly, where they'll start wanting to know where you are, when you're coming home, what time, who you're with, and you stop feeling like an adult. Like all of a sudden, you feel like you back when you was a teenager and your mama was like, "Where are you? You got to be home by 11." This starts happening. This is an indication that there's a control mechanism. This is not sincerity of a concern, because it gets overwhelming. You can see the text message here. This also happens in the JW organization, where you're supposed to be submissive no matter what, right? And every aspect of your life, not just, not just what type of job you have. There's certain jobs you can't have. Not only when you can work. I already talked about the fact that you cannot be working instead of being at the meeting. What kind of sexual relationships you can have in the umbrella of a legal marriage can be discussed. Whether or not you can wear a beard, whether or not you can wear pants to a meeting. All of these things are not in the Bible, right? That there's nowhere in the Bible that says I need to wear a dress to the meeting. Actually, everybody wore dresses back in Jesus' day. So how come the brothers aren't wearing dresses? So all of what I'm saying to you is that is control. Like, what every aspect of your life. And at some point you just want to say, and I felt this, Lady C, you just want to say, when you say it's a matter of conscience, do you really mean that? Because I'm getting questioned on every aspect. And when you're at Bethel, you have a Bethel elder, and they're asking you all kinds of, I'm not even going to go into that, but it's like you feel like you have no private life. And it reminded me of this controlling mechanism, which is treating like, because the purpose of it is to insist in your mind that, again, you need them. You cannot live independently of them, because you need their direction. You need their understanding. You need them to tell you what to do. Once you believe that, now they can control you in any way, in any category. And so, what I'm saying to you is, when you see people starting to do that, whether it be in your household or whether it be your religion, think of that as a red flag. Because if you're an adult, you should not need to be controlled by an organization. God's word, the Bible, in Second Timothy says it is sufficient for all things, for teachings, for setting straight, for righteousness. So all we need is God's word, the Bible. We do not need an organization to direct our dress, our grooming, and what decisions we make as adults and parents.
That's right. Yep.
So,
Next slide.
yes, please. So this one is the one that hurts the most. But this is where you start getting blamed for their mistakes. And I go back to the first one I mentioned earlier about 1975. The society never said that, is what people have said from the platform. Brothers from the platform, helpers from the platform have said. Nobody ever said 75 was the end of the years. But if you go back in time, you'll find evidence that was giving the organization this understanding. So people were sacrificing things, giving up retirement plans and home investments and etc. But they were saying, once they decided that that was no longer truth, new light, then it was your fault because you came to that conclusion. And this happens over and over again, especially, and it hurts me when I see a brother from the platform laugh about a teaching that we were taught by that same brother to believe. And we submissively adapted to that teaching because we were being submissive like sheep. But then you laugh because you're laughing at me for obeying you. But this is the way it happens in a controlling situation. There isn't that level of apology. So if you're in a relationship, your partner may be wrong sometimes. But if they're able to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. That was my fault. Next time we'll do this differently, then you have a healthy adult relationship. But when it's always your fault, when things go wrong, that's another serious red flag. Look at this woman. This picture, I picked it up from a domestic violence site on the internet. Every bruise on her face is her fault. She did something wrong. And I'm telling you, you can't predict this. You can't say when the food is hot or when the food is cold, because it's up to the controlling individual what he feels or she feels like that day that will provoke that. So it's not like you can prevent their flaws so that you can prevent the abuse. No, no, it's not you. Victim blaming is very popular also in rape. what you were wearing outside or what time of night you were outside. I'm sorry, I don't care if I'm out there butt naked. You don't have the right to rape me, right? That is a law that says rape is illegal, right? Now, I should also get in trouble for being butt naked, but it's not an excuse for you to rape me, right? And so this happens in the organization a lot where you feel like your own lack of understanding is an excuse for their uh, misdirection, and that's just not, it's not fair, right? It's not fair, and I find it insulting. I find it insulting, Lady C, that they will laugh at what they told me to believe, and I'm supposed to laugh with them because I feel like an idiot. You told me that, I believed it because you told it to me. Now you want to find it funny? I get very
I
upset
think the
over
reason
it.
why that's part is so sad is because while this ruling is taking place and being allowed to be enforced on the members, you are being faced with excommunication if you do not follow through with the belief. And then after the fact, like 20 or 30 years later, people make it seem like it was just so trivial. Well,
Yeah.
everybody knew the world wasn't going to come to an end in 1975. Why, how could you have believed that? You
Silly
know,
you. Silly you for
right?
being submissive, right? Silly
Exactly.
you. Yeah. you know,
Well, with
it's
the
like,
passage of time, the
yes,
Watchtower is able to trivialize those teachings. But while
yes,
it was happening, people were really feeling some kind of way and being
yes,
cut off from the families and all
yes,
kind of stuff. You know.
yes. And you'll never hear an I'm sorry. And actually, there was a brother recently that said, we do not have to apologize. He actually said it. Whereas those apologies could recognize the impacts to people's lives. Like on this
Mhm.
slide here on the right, could you imagine a child being molested, being told you should have screamed? Or why didn't you scream? Like, how dare you? How dare you? Like, I don't understand how you could think that way because this child's going to have trauma for life and you just added to it, right?
Mhm.
It's like I put on here also, um, your husband is unfaithful. Maybe you're not dressing well enough, maybe you're not taking care of yourself, so your husband was looking elsewhere. Shut up. Don't tell me that my husband's sin is because of my outfit yesterday. No, my husband's sin is because he decided, he made a choice to sin. Could you please go talk to him about that sin, right? And if you have doubts, are you reaching outside of the organization? Are you looking at internet sites that are not jw.org? Maybe I am. None of your business. But if I have a doubt, address the doubt. Don't address my behavior. Address the doubt. These things really annoy me. Like, I get offended because I love the people that are in the organization. There are so many people that I still love deeply, and I
What?
worry about them.
So, Audrey, what is your current relationship with the Jehovah's Witnesses?
I needed some time away to really make a decision. So I took some time away and I just kind of got into my own head. I did some therapy, kind of like just going through, it was like 11 years of full time service and kind of talking about it and what I feel. And since then, I've decided to separate myself completely. I I love the people that I love, but I see this as not in harmony with what I know God to be, a God of love. And I see people suffering. I see depression, suicide, self abuse as the results of this level of control. And I'm worried about the people I love. But I have decided, no, I'm not coming back. I have decided this is not right. And if Jehovah is the kind of God that would allow this type of abuse, that would not be understandable to me at all. I think anyone who's coming to this decision where they're noticing these red flags should take some time to think, like take some private time, do some critical thinking. Don't ignore the red flags that you see because humans are built in the likeness of God. We recognize danger through our gut, through our intuition. We should never ignore that. In domestic violence, you'll see this happening where the red flags are ignored and therefore the abuse can go on for decades. So you need to not ignore it, think about it, pray about it if you still pray, and then make a decision on your own. I can't tell you what to do. I will never try to tell you what to do, but make a decision based on your own understanding, your heart, and your prayers. Don't ignore the red flags.
Well, that was a really good experience that you had there and sharing all of that information. And I am so certain that a lot of people can resonate with what you're saying. And I am so glad that you took the time to do that critical thinking so that you could find yourself on the other side of this organization. So I want to thank you so much for being in
It's
on
my
the
pleasure.
program
Yeah, it's
and
my
sharing
pleasure.
your experience.
Yes. Totally my pleasure, Lady C. I think what you and JT are doing is hugely important because in order to think critically, again, I think you need support systems. And you are acting as a support system, even though it's remote, right? Any type of support system can help us think, help us recognize when something ain't exactly right. And even just asking the questions like you and JT do, really hugely important to me. So I'm glad to be here with you because I value and I respect you and JT deeply.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that.
For more details about the 10 warning signs everyone needs to know about domestic violence, please refer to the description of this video. You can reach the Domestic Violence Support Hotline online at thehotline.org. If you need immediate assistance, you can reach their hotline at 800-799-7233 or text the word START to 88788.
Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated, make sure you're subscribed. There's more coming, and I'll see you in the next episode.